The inner machinations of my mind are an enigma. I can't claim that. That's a SpongeBob quote.
We have a friend here that, if we're lucky, me and Dan will shut up long enough to let anybody actually listen to.
Yeah,
And that is our good friend Kevin C. Burns.
Kevin C. Burns from kevincburns.com. Is that still up and running?
It's not. It expired about 10 years ago.
10 years ago?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I was going to go catch up on that at some point soon. I guess there's nothing to catch up on.
So actually, right before this, I was searching for that, and then I was also searching for your old Lost blog, which we might get into after we get through the stuff we need to get through if we have some time.
Yeah, it's too bad. I was saving all that for a rainy day.
Well, it led me down an interesting blog post chain because I opened up my Feedly, which was formerly Google Reader,
Right.
where I found all my old blogs, and that led me to you have an old blog, Dan, that I don't remember.
That's right. I don't know how to delete it either.
It was something. It was right out of like GeoCities style.
Dan Litz the blog, I believe.
Yeah. So then that got me looking around, and I just was like, you know what? I bet it's kevincburns.blogspot.com.
Yeah.
And it is.
Nice.
Last thing is the journey that Kevin went through going prepaid. What was that like?
It was pretty special. So much so that I'm now postpaid again. Yeah, it saved some money.
Very
for a few
successful
years.
experiment.
Yeah, it ended up that the deals have shifted and postpaid works for us now.
I just remember back when you were running the blog through your now extinct website. I just remember at one point, our old youth pastor talking to me about it, and he was first telling me about the website, and I was like, well, so what does he do? And he's like, well, he like blogs on it and stuff. I was like, what does he write about? And he's like, it's a lot of stuff like, today I played basketball. And he's like, I get the feeling that he goes out to play basketball so that he can come home and have something to write about.
Basically, I was just the head of Twitter.
Yeah, right.
You've always been ahead of the curve. I say that as a joke, but really, I think you were probably my first friend on Twitter, and you were probably my first friend on, Google Plus and some of the other really successful social networks out there.
MySpace.
We were big Google Docs users for a while there.
He introduced you to Zune as well, didn't he?
That's very possible. That was successful. Don't you dare diss Zune, Dan.
Yeah.
Did you have a Zune, Kevin?
I never had a Zune.
Anyone that disses
Okay.
it, like, they just put it in a major motion picture. Guardians of the Galaxy 2. So
Yeah. They weren't dissing it. They were loving on it. It was
Exactly.
great.
it's coming back.
Fond memories.
Right.
Yes, definitely. I think it's safe to say that this probably doesn't apply to Dan, but between you, Kevin, and me, and some of our friends, and my wife now, just Google and all of their like defunct labs services were like a huge part of our like high school experience.
Yeah.
I love Google Reader. Like, that was one of my favorite things that no longer exists.
Well, how else could you keep up with Kevin C. Burns, the blog?
Right, exactly. I mean, that was the main focus of what I got it for, but yeah, there was some others as well.
Can you describe how you know both of us?
So I lived in A-Town or Imperial, the area, from 2003 to 2007. So we went to church together and hung out at the various spots around town. And
You were nerdy enough to fall down in the social structure to our level. I think that might be like you were friends with the cool kids, but then you also had a blog and a website.
My fondest memories of being with Kevin was running or pretending to run sound stuff alongside of him while he actually did all the work, and trying to play heavier music that he would just, no, maybe next time, like every week.
Yeah, I don't think that next time.
Everybody in your life is just trying to keep you from going a little too far.
Right.
So we were friends in high school, and then we all kind of broke off and went to our different colleges, and you went off to OU. Was your plan all along to be a meteorologist?
Yeah, from a young age, I've always wanted to be a meteorologist. And when I was 13, I got a packet from OU about their meteorology program. I don't even know how I got on the list, but just kind of kept it in the back of my mind and worked out that it was the closest to home, and it's one of the top meteorology programs in the country. So decided to come out to Norman, Oklahoma, and really enjoyed my time there.
Yeah, right in the heart of Tornado Alley.
Yeah, there's always something going on here, so it was a pretty active time.
Yeah.
I was going to say that actually touches on a very important question that I had, and I'm glad that we can finally dispel this rumor that has been circulating the nation right here on this podcast. So you didn't then become a meteorologist because you really liked Boy Meets World, and that's what Eric Matthews did on the show.
That is correct. I think my interest in meteorology predated that episode by a year or two, so I think we can dispel that.
Uh-huh.
See, I always thought that's what it was. Like, I thought you watched that and you're like, that's a good idea, and just pursued that.
I mean, I still watch Boy Meets World, so it's a reasonable theory.
Well, of course, you're not a monster.
So you graduated with what is your actual degree called?
Bachelor's of Science in Meteorology.
There you go.
Nice.
And then you pretty much immediately got a job at something related to that, right?
Yeah, so while I was in my senior year, I interviewed with a company called Weather News, and ended up getting a job offer right before I graduated. So I started that in the August after I graduated in May, and been there almost 5 years. I think it's 5 years next week.
That's in Norman, where
Yes.
OU is.
Still in the same college town. We just moved to the other side of town, so we don't feel like college kids anymore.
It's just to get away from all the unicycles and hipster glasses.
Yeah, just get a little bit of space.
So what is it that you actually do?
So at Weather News, we provide weather forecasts for ships at sea.
Oh,
Our goal is to get them around the hurricanes and dangerous weather and on the best routes, and just kind of help them out with whatever they need in the weather industry.
so like you're providing data for them, or you guys are like in contact with them, helping answer. Like if somebody, like describe a specific scenario, I guess.
All right, so these are all cargo ships in all the world's oceans, and so if they're going from Vancouver out to Japan, we'll tell them which route they should take, make our suggestion, and it's up to the captain to make the final decision, but we're basically providing consulting services and giving them all the information they need to make their decisions.
That's great. Like, I don't know. I had absolutely no idea that there was that much infrastructure in place around that specific thing. I guess in my head, it's like they're just looking at a map, and like the same way I'm looking at Google Maps and then pulling up the weather. I'm like, do you think we'll run into rain in our like 2-hour drive over to, Springfield?
Yeah, they don't have very good internet access out at sea, so most of them don't even have internet browsers. They just get emails, so we just email it to them
My
or
goodness.
fax it to them, whatever it takes.
So none of the major phone networks have cracked that egg yet. They haven't quite expanded out onto the ocean.
Yeah, I'm not sure there's enough money in it for them.
Right. I did have a question about something that I saw recently. I think Charlie may have shared it, and this can be cut if it's sort of irrelevant or too off topic, but
Most of what you say will.
yeah. What is this thing that like you started with like weddings or something to do with like weather and weddings and some sort of service or something? Is that you that is doing that? Correct?
Yeah, my wife and I were driving in the car, and we were trying to think of different ideas to make some extra money to pay off our student loans, and we kind of thought like, what about weather for weddings? And we did some research, and no one's really providing that, so we started the company Your Wedding Weather. Just launched a few weeks ago on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. So giving that
And what
a
do you
try.
guys do essentially?
Basically, you can tell us which month you're considering, or maybe you're considering 3 months, and we'll tell you like the average weather conditions for the city that you're looking at for those 3 months, and kind of help you narrow down a date. And then once you choose a date, we'll send you weather forecasts starting about 30 days out, and then getting more frequent leading up to it, so you can make decisions on when you want to take your pictures, and if you need to pack an umbrella for your whole wedding party for those pictures. And if you have an outdoor wedding, we can help you make smart decisions on whether or not it's going to rain or be too hot or be too cold, and kind of just support the wedding party however it needs to be done and the weather aspect.
See, I thought that was a great idea. I just wonder, like, are you ever afraid of like people being mad at you if it's ever wrong? Which will, it seems like that would inevitably happen at some point, because it seems like that's always the thing. Like people always expect the weathermen to get everything 100% right all the time.
Kevin's no ordinary weatherman, Dan.
Yeah, you just haven't seen my skills yet.
Yeah. Have you ever
Okay.
been wrong?
Uh, Not very often.
Yeah. See, there you go.
Oh, okay. Well, that settles that then.
Next topic.
I mean, it sounds like it's pretty similar to what you're doing for cargo ships.
Yeah, this would just be a little more stationary, so it's a little easier.
That's
So
true,
they
but
can
probably a
look at it.
smaller like region that you have to
Yeah, you
deal
can
with.
focus in on one area.
I just think it's a great idea because, like, actually, on I think it was our last podcast episode, you were asking me about Charlie was asking me about my vacation to Chicago, and I had mentioned that I went down there for a friend's wedding, and it actually was a beach wedding, and it rained, but only for like an hour, like right when the wedding was supposed to be. But the problem was we could have waited 15 minutes on either side of that and still done it outside, but the place like required that they have it in like a sure answer whether to go with the plan B option indoors by a certain time, and we just weren't able to tell. But of course, if you had someone that was like, giving you information about that and kind of handling that, like that's a huge like weight off their shoulders. And that's what I kind of thought of whenever I saw that, was just what a great idea that would have been.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're looking to help in. So if anybody out there needs help with that, we are ready to help you guys out. It's your wedding weather.
And if there are any people getting married soon that would like to look into that, where would they go?
Go to Twitter or Instagram, Your Wedding WX, which is the abbreviation for weather. And on Facebook, we're just Your Wedding Weather. So you can find us there.
Awesome. And I mean, is that the type of thing too that like a wedding planner might just kind of have you as a go-to person
Yeah,
too?
we think we can be a great resource for wedding planners, venues, just kind of anybody involved in that planning aspect.
Cool. So the only other question I had about your job is I'm frequently jealous of you because I constantly see you traveling around. Like you've been to like Paris and a bunch of different European countries, I feel like. What's the deal with that? Or are you allowed to talk about it?
Yeah, I can talk about it. Our company is headquartered in Tokyo, Japan. Started there 30 years ago, but they have an office in Norman, Oklahoma, and then they also recently opened an office in Copenhagen, Denmark. So I went over to Copenhagen for 4 weeks in 2015 and again earlier this year, and got to spend 4 weeks there both times and travel on the weekends. So it's a pretty cush gig.
Yeah.
I love sushi, by the way.
Yeah,
Yeah, Copenhagen's known for that.
yeah,
Exactly. That's what I was going for.
that Copenhagen sushi. It's out of this world.
Man, that would just be awesome. How was that? Like what was your favorite part of was that your first time visiting, like going outside of the country or outside of the continent at least?
Yeah, it was my first time away from North America. I was going to Japan in 2013, and I spent 2 weeks there. So it was just really different, and it's just especially not having any signage in English. That was probably the biggest transition. But the food was really good.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Even in Tokyo?
Yeah, pretty much everything's in Japanese, and maybe like half the people I came across spoke English, but a lot of times the cashiers didn't. So I was just trying to read the display and figure out how much I needed to pay.
I think I was watching a like travel channel type show one time about, I want to say it was Japan, but I don't remember exactly. And the biggest thing that would bug me there, from what I gathered, was toilet situation. Is now correct me if I'm wrong. Is that did they have a lot of like toilets that are like on the ground, or am I thinking of somewhere
I
else?
only came across that once. It was in a public park,
Ooh,
and they also didn't have toilet paper, so it was kind of a weird situation there.
ooh.
I thought you were going to say they didn't have walls. I have no idea why I thought that, but I had a very specific, I had a very specific image of just a hole in the ground.
Yeah. So this isn't a restroom; it's just a pit.
Surrounded by bushes.
Yeah. Kevin's just squatting in the middle of the park, like, man, these people are weird, but I guess this is what I'm supposed to do.
Gotta do what you gotta do.
We're already obviously going pretty long, which I kind of expected we would. So let's get to the big thing here. So Arnold is involved in a giant
Cosmic event.
yes, cosmic event. So we brought in the smartest person we knew that, meteorologists are known for all of their space knowledge.
Right.
So we figured, hey, we should get Kevin to come in and explain everything to us. So I don't know if we actually said it yet, but we are, of course, referencing the solar eclipse, the total solar eclipse that is passing directly over our beautiful town.
Right.
And I believe, Kevin, you said that you were coming up here with a bunch of friends to see it.
Yeah, my coworkers and I took the days off around it, and we're heading your way, and we'll be ready to move wherever the clouds aren't, depending on how the forecast shakes out.
Yeah, and that was actually one of my questions. Is well, let's start with when is this actually supposed to occur, and then where is it supposed to occur?
All right, so it's going to be Monday, August 21st, and it'll start in Oregon about 10:19 a.m. Pacific time, so it'll be 12:19 Central time, and it'll move across the northern part of the country, kind of come down just south of St. Louis, and then it'll exit over South Carolina around 1:41 Central time. So it'll be like an hour and a half period there.
Okay. Is there like does it is there a spot where it's like stronger, or is it pretty much even across that whole swath of the
There's
country?
a pretty much a band of about 60 miles where the sun will be completely blocked by the moon. And that band is the band from Oregon to South Carolina. And then the differences inside that band is how long it'll be blocked. So if you're in the dead center, which is down by St. Clair, Missouri, and uh, then you'll be totally blacked out for 2 hour or 2 minutes and 41 seconds. And
Okay.
it kind of decreases from there. But the whole country will be blocked out. At least 30 or 40% of the sun will be blocked.
Is this now? I'm going to sound completely ignorant here, but I don't know much about eclipses. If I remember correctly, there's like two different kinds of eclipses, and I don't remember, is both of them you're not supposed to look at, or is like one's okay to look at, or
You got
do
it
you know
right.
any of that?
There's an annular eclipse, which is when the distance that the moon is from the Earth is a little too far away, so it doesn't completely block the sun. In those cases, you can't look at
Mhm.
it directly at all. But in this case, the total solar eclipse, once the sun is completely covered by the moon, you can safely look at it for that little 2 minute stretch. But otherwise, you need eclipse glasses
Okay.
to filter out all the UV radiation.
That's what I was going to ask, because at least around here, I was surprised to see, like, I knew it would kind of be a big deal because you hear people whisper about it, or like a couple months ago, and I've heard people just randomly talk about it coming up. But like if you go into like Schnucks or Deerbergs around here, which are grocery stores in the Midwest, at least for people that may not know, there's like something like pitch black cherry soda that some local soda company came out with just for the eclipse, and there's like glasses everywhere, and I didn't understand that because I thought it was something you could look at.
Yeah, so basically, when it's not fully covered, it's just like looking at the sun any other time. It'll that radiation will burn your eyes, so got to have some kind of protection. Those filters block out all that radiation. They'll basically block out everything but the sun when you look through them. So you'll just so that's a good test to make sure that you have the right glasses. When you look up, you should see like black sky and then just the orange sun. But you need more than sunglasses to look at it, unfortunately. But it sounds like there's a lot of options in the area to get your glasses. They're also available on NASA's website and Amazon and many other places.
That's cool.
So, so you said, was it St. Clair, Missouri was the longest stretch?
Yeah, St. Clair's on the line of the longest total eclipse.
And that's when you say the line, you're talking like the maps I've seen, it's kind of a wide line that goes across the country, but like in the middle of that line is a red line.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what you're talking about. So like as you get away from that middle of that line is where it's shrinking the amount of time that you're in the total eclipse.
Yeah, so like from the southern side of St. Louis, we'll get the total eclipse for maybe like 2 minutes, but the northern side would get the eclipse for a minute or 30 seconds, that kind of thing.
Gotcha. So what is the weather supposed to look like in this area as of now? I know. So we're recording this on the two Wednesdays before, so it's like a week and a half away, something like that.
Yeah, so we're like 12 days out right now, and the forecast confidence beyond about 4 to 5 days, especially for cloud cover, is pretty low. But the general idea is that there could be an area of low pressure over the central U.S. on that day, so could cause some problems from Nebraska to northern Missouri and then into eastern Missouri. So we'll just have to watch the forecast as it gets a little closer, but hopefully we'll get some clearing skies, and it's in the middle of the day, so just need clear skies overhead and you should be able to see it from wherever you are.
Awesome. I might be pinging you on Twitter and constantly bugging you to see what the latest is.
I would love it if both of you give me like reminders, like weekly, daily, hourly before it comes up, because I will forget.
You're going to be driving down 55 and the sky will turn dark.
Yeah,
and
what
you'll
is that? Stare
freaking
right
out.
at it.
The end of the world.
Yeah, there's a guy at work whose that is her first day of school, like kindergarten, first day of going to school. And this is his daughter that, she's the one who watches kid shows and then asks really existential questions about life during it. And so he's like really nervous that she's going to, be away from her family for the first time. And then the sky is going to go dark. And
So this is what happens when I leave my parents.
well, that may be true for you because you were in Oklahoma where there's just storms all over the place. And I've seen a picture of you with a giant tornado behind you, but you're still got like your standard kind of goofy grin
Yeah,
looking
that
at
was
the
the
camera.
first time I saw a tornado, so it was a memorable experience.
It's pretty frequent that I go through your Facebook and find that picture to show all of my friends my cool storm chaser friend. So don't delete it.
All right. I need to add a new one soon.
What pictures of me do you show your friends?
We really need to keep this podcast clean. There might be children listening.
I actually did have a question for you kind of on tornadoes. This is a serious question. I have a few joke questions to follow up, but this one's serious at least. So I've always talked to people, like I work with someone that I think used to live in Florida. I say I think because I don't remember where they said they lived there, or they just knew someone that did. But like one of the things that's always made me not want to live in places on the coast is because of like hurricanes. And I've always thought like it's just crazy to live in a state, particularly Florida, where you're kind of surrounded on all sides if a hurricane just came right through. And like the way I figure it is at least the statistics have to be that at least like once or twice during your life, your belongings could very well get completely destroyed. And I've always thought it's better to live up here, but I've heard other people like say before, well, you guys have tornadoes like all over the place, which is true, but I also kind of feel like that's not as big of a deal. Where do you come down on like hurricanes versus tornadoes? Would you rather live in either type of climate, or is it all just sort of relative?
I think it's all kind of relative and kind of how you approach the different risks. So tornadoes are short-lived, but that also means they have shorter warning span, so you can't like evacuate and grab all your belongings and get out of town before the tornado hits. So that's kind of the downside of it. But then, like you mentioned with the hurricanes, it's widespread destruction, and It'll take everything in its path if it's strong enough. So at least in that case, you could get out of the way and take your most valuable things with you at least. But it just kind of depends on where you want to live. You can't worry about it too much because the statistics are pretty low that in frequency it's
Hmm.
not going to happen too often to you.
And with tornadoes, like, is it true that they don't really, I don't know if form or run through areas that are a lot more hilly? Like, I guess I'm thinking like you lived in Imperial area. If you remember, like down 21, you started to get like lots of hilly areas and back roads and stuff. Like, would a tornado be able to like go through an area like that, or would that be, or am I just not making any sense at all?
Yeah, the terrain shouldn't have too much effect on the tornadoes as long as it's just hills. You don't see very many tornadoes out in the Rocky Mountains, but once you get to like hill country areas, the tornadoes can still pass through there, and they can move over rivers, and nothing kind of really
Gotcha.
stops them at that point.
Interesting.
So we're running pretty low on time, but I did have one quick solar eclipse related question I wanted to ask. Um, Somebody brought up a weird question that I hadn't even thought of to ask, and I don't know if it comes from somewhere or if he was just being goofy, but he said, "Are there any like weird animal behaviors that come up during the eclipse, or any other weird phenomenon that might happen that we should look out for?"
So I looked into this, and uh, NASA basically said that the darkness in the middle of the day can be quite jarring to animals, especially birds. Um, but
Hmm.
because you're only getting a total solar eclipse, like in the United States, twice in 100 years, then there's not really a lot of opportunity to do research on it. So it's kind of an area that researchers haven't been able to fully study to see how animals respond. So it's something to keep an eye on if you're around on the 21st and see how the animals around you behave.
There you go. We can all document it and provide
Yeah,
scientific evidence.
Right.
it's a living experiment.
Yes, exactly.
I, if you'll allow me, I have a couple rapid fire questions, just lightning round.
All right, I'm on the hot seat.
Okay.
There's your music.
Yeah. Do 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 do. All right. So no one really holds meteorologists' feet to the fire. So I'm going to ask you just a couple quick questions that the people, I think, will want to know. The first question is, how accurate is the Sharknado franchise?
Very low.
So you're saying that a tornado cannot pick up sharks and launch it on land.
I don't think they could pick them up out of the water. I think that's the issue.
What about a hurricane? Could that like
No,
what about like a shark hurricane? I mean, I know that doesn't flow off the tongue as well, but
yeah, no, that's not realistic either.
okay. How much is big meteorology paying you?
Uh, it's in the 8 to 9 figures.
That's Al Gore sending you that check, right?
Yeah, directly.
All right, you survived the lightning round.
That's a
Wow.
real.
Oh,
All
that's
right. Well, we'll let you go. Thank you for
Yeah,
coming
thanks for
on.
having me.
An embarrassing. Yeah,
yeah.
I know this is
Seriously, it's good
it's a
talking to you
big
again.
shot to your reputation to associate with us.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to my career trajectory after this episode.
Yeah.
It's all one direction.
We'll see which way.
Well, I think that went well.
Yeah. Yeah. Once we started actually letting him talk and we weren't just constantly trying to outdo each other on making little dumb jokes, I
He was
feel
a
like
bit political on the tornado hurricane question, but
yeah,
I'll let it
he really
slide.
pushed. Yeah, I think he has an agenda, Dan.
Just trying to play it safe.
You got to recognize his meteorological bias.
There you go. Got it.
Yep, nailed it.
Okay, so if people want to talk about the solar eclipse, or if they want to give us feedback on things that we've touched on that might have struck a nerve or struck a chord of joy in their life, where can they go to do that?
You can check us out at our Facebook page. Best way to find
Ooh.
that is to search A Town FM in Google and look for that glorious green water tower. You can also go to our website. There's a comment section on every post. and that is atownfm.com. And then Twitter. Twitter, you can find us, surprisingly, at atownfm. Yeah. We decided to keep things very confusing. So it's very hard to
Yeah.
find us. So yeah, Twitter's good. Twitter's probably my preferred one so far, but there isn't as many people there as Facebook. Facebook conversation has actually been happening, and that's been really fun.
Yeah, surprisingly, and it's not one of those deals where it's like the same person every time either. That was one thing I was worried about. We actually get different people from time to time.
Yeah, and the train finally got going on people telling us what state and or country they're from, so that we can get our wonderful flag conversations going.
Yeah, we're up to like what? Like I want to say 5 or 6 like now, not that we have like zillions of people from those places, but nonetheless, the fact that anybody would subscribe to our podcast in a different country is kind of interesting. And we got like 5 or 6 different countries represented outside of
We
ours.
added a new one today. We haven't posted their flag yet, but
Oh,
the great country of France.
nice.
Yeah. That
And
one
that
was
was
that one was through
on
YouTube.
in which that was Dunkirk, right?
Yeah, it was the Dunkirk episode. So yeah, we want to hear where you're from. It's really exciting to see the uh, influences of the great town of Arnold spreading throughout the world.
Yeah, maybe we can maybe instead of posting the French flag, we can make a tile of the water tower and the Eiffel Tower next to each other.
Ooh, yes.
Equal monuments in stature.
Yeah, and a similar color scheme to the great gift statue that France gave us.
Yeah, Statue of Liberty.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Maybe I haven't looked into this, but it's possible that the green water tower was a gift from France.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't read anything that says it's not. So
Yeah.
that's how that works, right?
It is just as likely that they did that as it is that they didn't. Yep, I think that's how that works. We're going to go with that.